Welcome back to Coach Craig Sports. Today is going to be Friday's episode, and we're going to be doing the start sits for every matchup this week. There was no Thursday night football, so this is going to be the other 14 matchups. There are 4 teams on byes, so that means there is only 14 games this week. Without further ado, we'll get into it, and we'll start with the Texans and the Titans game. And on the Texans side, we got Deshaun Watson. You can start him in this matchup. Titans defense is pretty average, but they do give up some big yards in the passing game at least. David Johnson, you can start him kind of as like a running back 2 more than anything. Duke Johnson's going to be a sit. Will Fuller you can start. Brandon Cooks, he's kind of like a borderline guy for me. Probably going to start him as like a wide receiver 3 or a flex play. And shouldn't be too worried about it in this matchup. He obviously had that good week last week. Randall Cobb's a sit. Jordan Akins, it looks like he might not play, so he's going to be a sit. Darren Fells would only be a streaming option at tight end. Texans defense is a sit. Once again, I'm not going to go over the kickers too much. I've pretty much done it the first couple of weeks this year. If there's anything notable with the kickers, I will mention them, though. On the Titans side, Ryan Tannehill, he's a start for me. He's actually my start of the week in our Podcastic Network article for starts and sits. Derrick Henry is a start as well. Texans defense hasn't been very good against the run. A.J. Brown is a start. Jonnu Smith is a start. Keep in mind, Corey Davis and Adam Humphries might play in this game. They were on the COVID list. We'll have to see if they come back or not. Titans defense will sit this week. And then we'll move over to the next matchup, which is the Eagles and the Ravens. So on the Eagles side, we got Carson Wentz. He's a sit until we see more from him. Obviously, the Ravens have one of the better defenses in the league. You don't want to play him against them anyways. Miles Sanders, he's a start, but just tamper your expectations for him. Kind of like last week, except last week it kind of worked out since he had that one long rushing touchdown. Boston Scott's a sit. Deshaun Jackson, Alshon Jeffrey, they might be back this week, but they're still probably sits for me. Just want to make sure they're healthy, and you should have a better option out there. Last week's hero or star, Travis Fulgham. If Jackson and Jeffrey are back, you can't start him. I'm still probably not starting him in general. He's more of a bench stash to me. And see if he performs, see how much more he keeps playing. Greg Ward, he's like a borderline guy. You could probably throw him in a PPR format. He'll be all right, but he won't kill you. Zach Ertz has disappointed a lot of people this year, and this might be a decent matchup for him, honestly, but he's just a borderline guy at this point. If you have a better option, start your better option. If you don't, just roll Ertz out there. He's going to hit one of these weeks pretty big. Eagles defense, we're going to sit. Ravens side, you're going to start Lamar Jackson. I know he's not been quite as good as people want him to be this year. But their running backs, I'm going to sit all the running backs for the Ravens this week if I can. Mark Ingram, it was actually one of my sits of the week. And J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards. Philadelphia does have a pretty good run defense, so don't expect these guys to do too much, and they're all in this big timeshare. Hollywood Brown, you can start this week. Obviously, you saw what Chase Claypool did against the Eagles last week. Same thing with Mark Andrews. Eagles are awful against the tight end. Ravens defense you can start as well, since Carson Wentz has been known to create turnovers for the other team. Then we got the Falcons and the Vikings. Going through this game real quick. One important thing to note is that the Falcons did have some positive tests for COVID this week. They did shut down their facility. We'll have to follow that situation going forward, seeing if there is a game or not. So Kirk Cousins, he's a start. Falcons defense is very bad against the pass. Dalvin Cook's going to be a sit. Doesn't look like he's going to play this week with his little abductor injury, I think they called it. Alexander Madison is a start in this one. If he gets the bookload of the touches, he's going to be very good. Adam Thielen's a start. Like I said, Atlanta does not have good pass defense. Justin Jefferson would be a start as well. Tamper your expectations as we've seen what happened last week with Seattle. So just know he's not going to have 100 yards receiving each week. Kyle Rudolph's a sit. Irv Smith is kind of somebody I like as a sleeper tight end this week. If he gets involved how they used him last week against Seattle, he could have a good game. But you probably have a better option out there at this point. Vikings defense is a sit. Matt Ryan is a sit. He was actually one of my sits of the week. Todd Gurley, you can start. He should be a decent running back 2 there. Julio Jones, I don't think is going to play, so he's going to be a sit. Calvin Ridley, you can start in this one. Just kind of tamper your expectations with Julio Jones out. Russell Gage, Hayden Hurst. I'm sitting both these guys until they really prove something to me because honestly they haven't done enough. I know Russell Gage looked pretty good at the beginning of the year, but he hasn't done much lately. Atlanta's defenses you're obviously sitting since they're pretty poor. We'll have to see if they get any better with new interim coach Raheem Morris taking over. He was the former defensive coordinator for them. Then we got the Browns and the Steelers. We'll look on the Browns side first. We got Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield's going to be a sit against the tough Steelers defense. Then we got Kareem Hunt. He's going to be a start. He's very talented. You're going to start him every week. Dearness Johnson's a sit in this one. He didn't see as much volume last week as we had hoped. Odell Beckham Jr., he's been dealing with an illness this week. We'll have to see if he plays, but if he plays, you start him. Steelers obviously didn't look too great against Greg Ward and Travis Fulgham last week, so Beckham and Jarvis Landry both should be starts. Keep in mind another name is Rashard Higgins. If Beckham doesn't play for some reason, if Landry doesn't play for some reason, Landry hasn't practiced so far this week at the time of this recording. Austin Hooper, he's somebody you could probably start in this matchup. He's kind of like a low-end tight end one right now. He's been seeing a little bit more volume, so he's not the worst play in the world. Browns defense is a sit. On the Steelers side, Ben Roethlisberger, you can feel fine rolling him out there as a starter this week. James Conner's a starter as well. Juju Smith-Schuster, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool. So this week, I'd probably start Juju. I probably would start Claypool, and I would sit Johnson just to make sure he's healthy. Eric Ebron is a good start as well this week. The Browns have been pretty bad against the tight end. Eric Ebron's been pretty involved in the offense the last couple games. And the Steelers' defense is one of the best in the business, so you can pretty much start them every week. Bengals and the Colts. This one's going to be an interesting game for me, honestly. I think this game's going to be a lot closer than people give it credit for. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals come in and upset the Colts. So Joe Burrow, he's going to be a sit. Colts defense is very tough. You should have a better option out there. Joe Mixon, you're going to start him. Just kind of tamper your expectations, more like a running back 2 this week. Then we got Tyler Boyd. I think he's okay to start. He does draw a tough matchup against Kenny Moore at the slot corner. So just tamper your expectations with him. AJ Green is a sit. T. Higgins is like a borderline start, like wide receiver 3, flex play type of guy. Drew Sample's a sit. We're just trying to see more from him. I know he's been playing a lot, but we just want a little bit more production out of him. Bengals defense. This is a streamable defense this week. If you guys haven't watched my episode for the DFS or for the waivers, probably don't know this already, but if you have, then you would know what I'm going to say. Bengals defense, yeah, it's not great. But on the opposite side, the Colts have Phillip Rivers, who's just throwing interceptions left and right. His arm strength's dead. If they're able to stuff Jonathan Taylor and company, this could be a very favorable matchup for the Bengals defense in this one. Then Phillip Rivers is an obvious sit. He's been awful so far this year. Jonathan Taylor's a start. Naheem Hines is a sit. T.Y. Hilton I would consider a sit as well. Pascal's a sit. Trey Burton is actually my start of the week in our article. I think he's a streamable tight end option this week. He's been seeing 11 targets in the 2 games that he's played so far this year. And the Bengals are not very good against the tight end. Burton's the one running the most routes for tight ends in the Colts. And they have to throw the ball to somebody. Colts defense, I believe you can play in this one as well. Then we got the Lions and the Jaguars. I think you can start Matthew Stafford in this one. Feel pretty confident in it. Adrian Peterson, you could probably use as a bye week filler or like a flex play if you really, really need to, but just don't expect too much out of him. DeAndre Swift's still a sit until we see more from him. Kenny Galladay is actually my start of the week at wide receiver, so light him up. I think he's a solid wide receiver 2 at worst this week. Marvin Jones is a sit for me. He's been pretty hit or miss this year. TJ Hawkinson's a decent start in this one, and the Lions defense is a sit. Then on the Jaguars side, we got Gardner Minshew. You can start him in this matchup, but if DJ Chark doesn't play, you might want to pivot. James Robinson should be a solid start in this matchup as well. Chris Thompson's going to be a sit. DJ Chark, if he plays, you can start him. If he doesn't play, you need to sit him. If he does play and he's hurt, you still might want to pivot to a different option if you have one. Keelan Cole might have a little bit of value if Chark misses, but otherwise he's probably a sit. Laviska Shenault you can start this week, especially in PPR formats. Tyler Eifert is going to be a sit this week. Jaguars defense is also a sit. With their kicker, just be aware that Stephen Hauschka was in there last week. He didn't look too good. I can't remember if they brought anybody else in this week, but they've had a little bit of a revolving door at kicker so far this year. Then we got the Panthers and the Bears. Teddy Bridgewater, he is like borderline. You could probably start him if you don't have a better option, but if you have a better option, you're definitely going to sit him. Mike Davis is a start again this week, running back 2 for you guys. DJ Moore, you can start as like probably a wide receiver 3 or like a flex play this week. Robbie Anderson, you can start and feel pretty good about. Curtis Samuel, he was a little bit more involved, but I think he's still a sit. We just want to see it in multiple weeks. Ian Thomas still hasn't shown us anything, so he's a sit. Panthers defense, They've been all right last couple weeks, but they're going to be a sit in this one. Bears side, we're going to sit Nick Foles. It's a decent matchup, but unless you're in a 2-quarterback or a super flex league, you probably don't need to start him. David Montgomery is a very good start this week against Carolina's poor run defense. Allen Robinson is a start. Darnell Mooney and Anthony Miller, until one of these guys really stands out, they're both sits. Jimmy Graham, you can play in this matchup as a startable tight end if you need to. And the Bears defense, you can start and not feel too bad about it. And then we got the Washington football team and the New York Giants. So on the Giants side, we got Daniel Jones. He's going to be a sit this week. He hasn't looked very good this year, so you're just going to keep on keeping him on your bench or your waiver wire, wherever he is at in your league. And then for the running back situation, Devontae Freeman's probably somebody you can start as kind of a running back 2 or a flex option this week, especially in PPR formats more than anything. Deion Lewis and Wayne Gallman are both sits. Slayton could have a decent matchup here, but he's more of a wide receiver 3 or a flex play in this one. Golden Tate's going to be a sit. Evan Ingram's going to be a sit. Giants defense, you could play in this matchup. It's not the worst matchup in the world. They're a decent streaming option this week. And then on Washington's side, we got Kyle Allen. He's going to be a sit unless you're desperate in a 2-quarterback league. Antonio Gibson, you can start kind of running back 2, flex play in that range. J.D. McKissick, you could start in this matchup if you need to. I think in PPR formats, you'll see enough volume that he'd be a decent flex option, or like if you're really running back needy team in a PPR league, you could roll him out there if you need to. And then Terry McLaurin, you can start him this week. He's pretty comfortable starting every week. I know he did have a little bit of a down week last week, but it's not something I'm majorly concerned with him. Dontrell Inman's a sit. Logan Thomas is going to be a sit until we figure out this whole quarterback situation, see how many targets he ends up getting. And Washington's defense you can stream this week against the New York Giants. They'll be a good pickup for sure. Then we got the Patriots and the Broncos. So Cam Newton, you can start in this one. Patriots running backs. Pretty much the only one I'm really starting this week is James White in PPR leagues. Probably as like a flex option more than anything. And then maybe you can use Damian Harris in a standard league. I just don't trust him at this point. I want to see it out of him for another game. N'Keal Harry is probably somebody that's better off as a bench stash at this point. Julian Edelman's probably not somebody you really want to play this week. He does have a decent matchup in this one, but he hasn't looked good the last 2 games, so he's not somebody I'm going to go after. Demir Bird's probably a sit as well. Ryan Izzo is definitely a sit, and the Patriots defense you can play in this one for sure. Drew Lock's going to be a sit. Looks like he'll be back this game, first game back off his injury, so he might be a little rusty. We're not going to trust him in this matchup as well. Melvin Gordon, he is a start if he plays. He has that DUI going on right now. He could be suspended. We'll just have to see what happens with that. If he plays, you can start him. If not, then obviously you sit him. If he misses, then Philip Lindsay becomes a must start pretty much. And if he doesn't play, then Lindsay's more like a flex play, but he's probably somebody you want to sit this week, more or less. Tim Patrick is probably like a wide receiver 3 flex play. Just kind of depends on your team. You can roll him out if you need to, but it's not the best matchup in the world for him this week. And Jerry Jeudy is somebody I'm sitting this week. I don't think he's going to have a very good week against the Patriots. He's been very hit or miss this year so far. Noah Fant, I do expect him to not play again, so he'll be a sit. Broncos defense, you could play in this one if Cam Newton doesn't play. If Cam Newton does play, then obviously you're going to sit them. The Jets and the Dolphins. So on the Jets side, we got not too many good options here. We got Joe Flacco. He's going to be a sit, obviously, unless you're in a 2-quarterback league and you're desperate. Frank Gore here. If you're in like a standard league and you really need a running back, or you're in a league where your running backs are all hurt or something like that, you can plug Frank Gore in. He'll probably get 15, 20 touches in this one. Don't expect too much out of him, though. Honestly, he's just a guy that's probably going to get you 6 points, but not much more. Maybe he lucks his way into a touchdown and helps you out that way. Another name to consider is LaMichael Pirine. He's not somebody you start this week, though, but as a bench stash for the future, if they move on from Adam Gase, if they move on from Frank Gore and see what Pirine can do, maybe he has some value later on in the season. Jamison Crowder's a start. Jeff Smith is somebody you could start in this one if you're a team that needs a wide receiver to plug and play this week, or a flex play option. Chris Herndon's a sit. The Jets defense, you can play against Miami. It's a decent streamable matchup. We kind of talked about it on our waiver wires. On the Dolphins side, you got Ryan Fitzpatrick. You could start him in this matchup. I feel pretty good about it. He did pretty well last week. Jets defense is not very good at all. And then Myles Gaskin, you can start as well. Like I said in my DFS video, he's getting 20 touches. He's going to get the goal line work if Jordan Howard's inactive again this week. So that makes him a very good, viable running back number 2, honestly. Then we got Devontae Parker. You can start him in this matchup. Jets corners aren't very good. Preston Williams, Isaiah Ford, I'm going to sit. Just kind of want to see more out of them both at this point in time. I'm just not enough to trust them at right now. Then you got Mike Gesicki. You can probably start him in this matchup. Not the worst in the world. If you have a better option, go ahead with your better option. If you don't, roll him out. And then Miami's defense, they're streamable in this matchup. You can start them this week, not to feel too bad about it at all. Then we got the Packers and the Buccaneers up next. And there's pretty good amount of plays in this game, honestly. So Aaron Rodgers is going to be a start in this one. Tampa's defense is pretty good, but they did give up some pretty good stats to Justin Herbert. So it wouldn't surprise me if Aaron Rodgers has a good day. Aaron Jones is a start. He's a very talented running back. Tampa is good against the running game, but Jones is also involved in the passing game as well. Jamal Williams is a sit. This is not the right matchup to try to throw him in. Devontae Adams is coming back off his hamstring injury. And honestly, you can start him this week. Don't feel too bad about it. MVS is going to be a sit. Robert Tonyan, a lot of people picked him up. A lot of people are expecting a lot from him. I don't see it this week. I know Jimmy Graham did get a touchdown against them last week, but otherwise he was pretty ineffective. So don't expect too much from Tonyan this week. Packers defense, you're going to sit. Tom Brady, you can probably start him in this matchup. It's not the worst matchup in the world, but if you have a better option, just roll with your better option. There's a couple streaming quarterbacks that are better options than him this week, so you can go with one of them and not feel bad either. Ronald Jones is a start. This is a good matchup for him. Packers defense isn't very good against the run overall, and Jones is over 100 yards 2 games in a row, so let's see if he can keep that streak going. Then we got Leonard Fournette. He's been banged up. I haven't really seen too much more news about him this week, but I'm just going to start him until we see him healthy again. Mike Evans is a start. Chris Godwin, you can start him if he plays. If he doesn't play, you sit him. If you have pretty similar options at this point and you want to bench him for one more week, see how healthy he is, that's fine as well. Gronkowski is going to be a sit. Brate's going to be a sit as well. Both these two guys could see some volume. We just want to see what happens going forward. Tampa's defense is somebody to avoid this week against the Packers. The Packers are one of the highest scoring teams in the league, so the Tampa Bay's defense is going to be a sit. We got the Rams and the 49ers next. Jared Goff, I think he's kind of like a streaming option this week, honestly. 49ers defense is pretty banged up, especially in their defensive backs. That could benefit him. Malcolm Brown's going to be a sit. Darrell Henderson's probably somebody you could play if you need to, but he's like a low-end running back too, high-end flex more than anything. Cam Akers, you have to pretty much wait and see with him, so he's going to be a sit. Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, I think you can start both these guys this week. Tyler Higbee's going to be a sit for me. He was actually one of my sits of the week. Rams defense, you can probably play in this matchup. Jimmy G did not look good against Miami last week. If he doesn't play, then we could be seeing Nick Mullins or CJ Beathard, which would definitely help them out as well. So with that being said, Jimmy Garoppolo or any 49ers quarterback is going to be a sit this week. Raheem Mostert, you can feel free starting him. McKinnon's going to be a sit until we see more from him. Last week he only played like 23% of the time, so that's very concerning. Ayuk and Samuel, I'm kind of just holding off on them right now. You can play them if you really need to, but otherwise I'd sit them this week until they show us some more. George Kittle's obviously going to be a start, and the 49ers defense is a sit. Bills and the Chiefs, we got Bill's side with Josh Allen. You can play Josh Allen this week. Not too much to say about it. Chiefs defense did give up a lot of yards to Derek Carr as well. Devin Singletary, you can start him this week. Just don't. He's like a low-end running back too more than anything. Zach Moss is a sit until we see more from him. Stephon Diggs is a start. John Brown's a sit. He might actually miss this game as well. He didn't play Tuesday. We'll have to see how that pans out for him. Gabriel Davis, if Brown misses, you could probably play as a flex play if you need to, or if you're in a double flex league, and he might not hurt you. Cole Beasley's kind of the same way. Dawson Knox is a sit. The Bills' defense is obviously a sit against the Chiefs as well. Then you got Patrick Mahomes, obvious start there. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he is a start. Keep in mind they just signed Le'Veon Bell, so Bell might come in and get a couple touches. That might affect Edwards-Helaire's value just a little bit. And then we got Sammy Watkins, McCall Hardman. We're going to be sending both them. I think Sammy Watkins is going to miss this game. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, you're going to start. Chiefs defense, you might be able to play in this one, but I wouldn't risk it at this point. Josh Allen has made some turnovers in his career, but he's looked better most of the time this year. Then we got the Cowboys and the Cardinals. So on the Cowboys side, we got Andy Dalton. Comes in for Dak Prescott off of his big injury. Dalton, his first game out, you do not want to start him. This isn't a decent matchup, but we just want to see how he rolls with this offense and how it looks without Dak Prescott on there. Ezekiel Elliott's a smash start this week. He's one of the best running backs there is out there. Plus, they might lean on him a little bit more with Dak Prescott missing. Amari Cooper, you can start. Just temper your expectations. Gallup and Lamb, I'm sitting both them this week unless I have no clear better option. I just don't know who Andy Dalton's going to target in this offense. Same thing kind of goes with Dalton Schultz as well. You can play him if you really need a tight end and you don't have any better options. But if you have a better option, go with that better option. We can just see how Schultz is affected by this changing of the guard. Cowboys defense is going to be a sit. And then on the Cardinals side, Kyler Murray is going to be a start. Kenyon Drake, you can probably start as like running back 2 flex. And Chase Edmonds, you might be able to start as a flex play as well if you need to, especially if you're in like a PPR type of league. DeAndre Hopkins is going to be a start. Larry Fitzgerald, Christian Kirk, Dan Arnold, they're all going to be sits. I just really want somebody else to stand out in this group, and that's not happened so far. And the Cardinals defense is going to be a sit against the Cowboys high-flying offense. And with that being said, that's all the 14 matchups for this week. Hope you guys all enjoyed. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them down in the comments below. If you guys need any advice at all, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's in the comments below at CoachCraigSports@gmail.com, on Twitter at CoachCraigSport, or on the Coach Craig Sports Facebook page. But with that being said, this is the Week 6 matchups. Hope you guys all enjoyed this information, found it useful, and can apply it to your lineups. But with that being said, that's all we got for today. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.